Am I the a-hole for telling my grandmother stop trying to make me to be her dead daughter? I-18F was named after my aunt who died in a car accident at 15, almost 20 years ago. I was told when I was born, my grandma saw my hair, red, and begged my parents to name me after my aunt. They agreed. From a young age, I was aware she favored me. It also caused my other cousins to resent me. I didn't like her favoritism towards me and just wanted to be treated normal. She would often say, "You have red hair like your aunt, or your aunt used to like art." I'm not into art, and would encourage me to take it up. I refused and it would upset her. Your auntie liked her hair in this style. I complained to my parents and they said that I'd just bring her comfort. Whatever. My 18th was 2 weeks ago and me and my friends planned to have a weekend road trip. My grandma disapproved and said my aunt would have done a party at home, and I finally lost it and said that's because I'm not her. Stop trying to make me be your dead daughter. I'm sick of it. My grandma started crying and left the room. I immediately felt bad. I got yelled at by family for making my grandma cry, and my dad was the only one who looked troubled and stuck up for me and told everyone to leave. My mother was upset with me and, like everyone else, demanded I apologize to my grandma, but I refused. My dad told me not to worry about it, and just go enjoy my road trip. It should be settled down by the time I get back. Except it hasn't. Everyone's still angry and my grandma hasn't spoken to me either. Am I the a-hole for kicking out my daughter for what she said about my brother? For context, my brother, L, 31, is disabled. He was born with a condition that made him born without a chin/jaw. He is genuinely my 40F best friend. Our mother died last month. It hit L the hardest because she was his carer. She had cancer, so we had time to discuss any wishes that my mother had. One of them was that when she died I let my brother live with me. I agreed. I got an extension added onto the side of our house for my brother, so he would have his own space and I could always look out for him. Our family has always been close with L. He would stay with us when my mother was away. My son, 11, adores him and they're always doing fun things together like sports and gaming. I also thought my daughter B20 got along with L. They often have Mario Kart tournaments together and L has even convinced me and my husband to give her a bit more independence. 2 nights ago B came home late from a party with her friend. I always stay up when B is out to make sure she got home okay. I heard her come into the house with her friend and I heard B say we need to be quiet so we don't wake my arsler uncle up. I thought my mind was playing tricks on me. Me and my husband have never raised our kids to say such things. That comment just took me back to when me and L were younger and me defending him against all the horrible people that would stare and make fun of him. I got up out of bed and I asked my daughter to repeat what she said. I could tell from the look on her face that she didn't think I'd hear that. I asked how she could say something so cruel about her own uncle. That this is not how she was raised and at 20 she should know how awful that is. And if she thought saying that to her friend made her look cool, she was wrong. That she made herself look like an insecure bully. She didn't apologize, she just said that nobody was meant to hear that and it's not a big deal. I asked B's friend if her parents are okay with her having friends stay over. She said yes, so I told B to leave and stay at her friend's house. B said I'm meant to take her side, that I'm her mother. I told her I have been L's sister longer than I've been a mother. B didn't think I was serious. I've always been a calm parent and I have never told her to leave the house before. I had every intention of having B back home, but she needed to learn a lesson that I meant that behavior would not be tolerated. I apologized to B's friend for being in the middle and I gave her cash to cover the cab to her house. I called B yesterday, hoping she understood how out of line she was. She didn't. She was unhappy that I took L's side over hers. I told her to come home so we could discuss this properly, but she refused. I have been in touch with her friend and B is still staying with her, so at least she's safe. Am I the a-hole for going off on my son's therapist and threatening to report him after he outed my son? My son Corden, 15M, is a wrestler and struggles with being bipolar and bulimic. He's been in therapy since last year after me and his mom started getting a divorce and he wasn't taking it well. Things got so bad that he had to quit wrestling for a bit after his coach caught him throwing up in the bathroom. So far Corden seemed to be doing better and is on meds that seem to work for him. He even started wrestling again this year. His mom got engaged to the man she had an affair with last month and since then Corden seems to be slipping again. I'm pretty sure I've heard him making himself sick and he's been in a bit of a funk after he quit talking to one of his teammates. After one of his therapy appointments I asked his therapist about my concerns and what I could do to help more if I felt Corden was sinking again. He kinda slyly told me and my ex that maybe he might be scared of coming out as and he had a bad breakup. Luckily Corden was waiting out in the car and didn't hear that. I was furious not because my son is gay, but because he didn't get to tell me himself. I cussed his therapist out on the spot and told him how unethical it was to tell me what he and Corden had talked about and outing a teenager. I threatened to report after he kept saying he was trying to help us out. Later my ex tells me she thinks I overreacted and that maybe it would be a good thing to be in the know without Corden knowing. Am I the a-hole for telling my girlfriend to change her page? Okay, so this might sound stupid, But I just need to hear that I'm not the crazy one. My GF, 22, does a cosplay content online, and so she has a Linktree. I want to say here that I have no problem with her content. She doesn't do nudes, she's not on OnlyFans, it helps pay the bills, etc. It's also important to note that my girlfriend is originally from India, and English is her second language. Alright, context out of the way, here is my issue. My GF likes to have fun with her links on Linktree. The Patreon link might say wanna buy me something? Or help support me, or something like that. Recently, she made a button that she's rather proud of that leads to her Twitter. The button says, "Wanna see my ex?" Not joking, that's what it says. She thinks it's a clever play on words because Twitter has changed to X. I told her to change it because it sounds explicit. We got in a fight over it. She thinks I'm controlling her, limiting her expression, and so forth. I'm not trying to be a jerk here, but she does online content. This is going to bring the worst creeps from the deepest sewers of the internet to her page and into our lives. Problem is, she's got friends, for whom English is also second or third language, backing her up, and they're making me out to a crazy control freak. Am I the a-hole for telling my estranged grandparents I don't care if their grandkids are in foster care? I'm 26M, married to my wife, 26F, and we're expecting our first baby. I'm estranged from my paternal side of the family after my father's affair on my dying mom and their willingness to try and defend his actions. While mom was sick, he left me to do more caring for her while he was screwing someone else. He even brought said other woman to my mom's funeral. His family also tried to get my mom to forgive before it's too late while she was still alive. It was a nightmare. I was 15 and it was a lot. Mom needed to be cared for and I was the only one who could when my aunt had to work. After mom died I moved in with my aunt. My father married the other woman and invited me to the wedding, but I didn't go or even acknowledge the invite. I had nothing to do with any of them. I heard he died last year and it was no concern to me. Also found out he had 2 kids. His other woman per second wife died 4 months ago. My paternal grandparents took the kids in, but they do not feel like they can raise 2 kids under 5 or 6 or whatever age they are. They mentioned me to a social worker who approached me and asked if my wife and I would be willing to raise these kids. We said no. The social worker made a note of it and said they would not approach me again. My grandparents have not given up and contacted me and my wife both over this. They tried to use guilt trips and sob stories about foster care being horrific for kids, and one is a little girl, so it's even worse. None of this changed anything for me, and then they tried getting my aunt to talk to me. They showed up at her house with the kids and appealed to her as a former foster kid. She and my mom both were. She told them to get the fuck out. I ended up talking to them over the phone instead of ignoring their messages to me. We talked. They told me after they went to my aunt's house they had spoken to the social worker again and now the kids are in care. They asked me how I could be okay with my siblings being in care. I said I don't care that their grandkids are in foster care. They are nothing to me, and the fact is I am not going to pretend I care about saving them. I said they need to accept the kids are now in care and a social worker will work on finding them a good family, but they need to accept I will not be that. They called me a monster and said I should be ashamed of myself, and they hope the birth of my child brings me nothing but guilt.